Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Just Jossin. I am one half of your host, Sabrina Hannon.
And I'm the other half, Jasmine Heron. This week, we are going to be talking about season 3, episodes 7 and 8, which is Revelations and Lover's Walk. Sabrina is very excited about Lover's Walk.
Yeah. And do I actually not have any fun facts about Revelations? No, I do. I do have a fun fact about Revelations.
Okay.
So the book that Giles identifies the glove out of is Tobin's Spirit Guide, originally from the Ghostbusters movie in 1984.
Really?
Yep.
And a fun fact for today.
Mm-hmm. I was so disappointed in myself there for a moment. Like, I don't have a fun fact about this episode. What? I'm slipping.
Oh. So this is the episode with Gwendolyn Post, Mrs. Did you?
Which is an extraordinarily British name.
Yes, but like the fact that she like denotes her title as Mrs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, does she ever reference who the Mr. to that Mrs. would be?
Mm-hmm. So we start off at the Bronze, and Oz and the Dingoes are playing, and then Oz goes to like snuggle up against Willow, and Willow and Xander are acting super jumpy because they've been, sneaking around with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Being, kind of awful, shitty people
Yep.
who are cheating and then still hanging out with their respective significant others.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They kind of notice, like I think it's Cordelia that points out that Willow and Xander are acting weird, and Buffy immediately changes Willow immediately changes the subject and says, Buffy's acting weird, isn't Buffy? And it's just like, Willow, shame.
Mm-hmm. And so
Oh.
and Buffy shows up and she's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, your boyfriend that maybe we made up in case, unless we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I have been seeing someone. And it's like, flirt. Who is it? And it's Faith. And she's like, we're really just friends. But I don't know. There is some sweet action going on between those two girls. Giles is just kind of like, watching as the two of them are synchronized slaying.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoying themselves and working off of each other and working together. And then they, stake the two guys at the exact same time. And, they're really, and then the little high five at the end, like, yup.
And this is going to be such a huge contrast to where this episode ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why there's a synchronization here, to really show the damage that Gwendolyn Post does to that relationship. This is really a big turning point for Faith.
This is a huge turning point for Faith. Faith, who has been feeling a little bit on the outside of the Scoobies, just a little bit on the outside. But Gwendolyn Post kind of gets in there and manipulates and preys upon her insecurities.
Yeah.
And
And not just hers, Giles.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so Gwendolyn Post shows up and basically reads the Slayers to shit, saying, you're kind of sloppy, the synchronized thing isn't cute. She's very pompous, and Giles is just sitting there like, the hell? Like, he just wants to enjoy his night, and his Slayers have slayed. All is well. And she just she's someone that, like, even if she wasn't evil, you could tell that she's someone who makes herself feel better by putting other people down. Gwendolyn Post is not a good person, which I mean, she cements later on. But then they go back to the library. Gwendolyn Post has the nerve to insult Giles's library and him. Like, just pee on him and kick him while you're like.
She's so dismissive. Where's the rest of your books? And he's like, this is it. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? Yes. And she goes, oh, of course you do. Like, you're so uncouth and
And then when she asks him to look something up, he's just opening the book and she's like, never mind. It's like, I'm sorry, do you read through osmosis, you psychopath?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because Giles is so beloved by the audience, and Buffy and everyone, like, automatically that tells us she is the devil.
Yeah.
And she also says that Gwendolyn says that there's talk within the council that Giles has become too American. To which Buffy is like, him? This guy? The British guy? No.
Yep. So she updates them that there is a demon called Lagos who has come to search for the glove of Minigon, and she wants to, if it's not too bold to ask, she imagined they should kill him, and two slayers, get it done.
And she's thinking it's going to be easy. That he's going to be searching for this glove. And Giles is like, there's 12 cemeteries within city limits. And you can just see, she's like, oh. And anyone who's been watching the show is like, that makes sense.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of dead people.
Well, I mean, and they've also talked about in other episodes how there's lots of churches as well. Mm-hmm. Churches because Hellmouth.
Yep.
Lots of dead people, lots of religion.
Yep. And Buffy, of course, also asks if, like, once Gwendolyn leaves with Faith, summoning Faith like a dog, asks if she can kill her.
And Giles really say no. He's like, yeah, I believe the council would frown upon that.
However, by the end of the episode, guess what?
Yep.
She does. And I think at that point we pop over to Buffy training with Angel. Her and I didn't know you could do that, and then she's doing it as well.
And then they've got that one scene where he turns and she turns and they raise their hands, but then his hands dip forward and grab her hands, so they're no longer synchronized. Now they're touching, now they're making out, and they're like, oh no, this is bad. Mm-hmm. Because if you remember, when they get bony, Angel gets in jealousy.
Yep. And Buffy says they have to go cold turkey, that is the key to quitting, which usually is not the key to quitting, but and Buffy mentions Lagos. And like, you can see it on Angel's face, like he clearly knows something, because he's like, be careful. Buffy doesn't really press him too much for that, about what it is, but he knows something, obviously. And then we bump over to Giles is ranting at Xander and Willow. And like, you can see how frustrated he is. And, Willow and Xander are running around the library for him, and then, go up to the stacks and start making out. And Giles almost catches them.
Mm-hmm. And, but, at first Xander was like, you're not my watcher. And Giles is like, then leave or stay here and work. And so then Xander, feeling so guilty about having made out with Willow, offers to go to the cemetery where the glove is, to see, to check out the tomb. And then he's like, let Buffy know if she checks back in.
Yeah.
And Buffy and Faith are, out wandering the streets, and they're talking. And Faith is talking about how the guys that she has dated have not been worthwhile guys.
She calls herself a loser magnet.
Yep. And which is, it's so self-deprecating. But she says, get some and get gone. Where basically she has decided that she does not want an emotional connection with men with men, or I don't want to say civilians though, because she's trying to open up to Buffy and get Buffy to open up to her.
Buffy's
And
not a civilian.
yep.
Mhm.
But she has this connection with Buffy, and she's trying to get Buffy to open up to her. And Buffy's like, she's like, well, tell me about Angel. And Buffy's like, nope, like I can't talk about it right now. And you can see Faith is a little hurt
Mhm.
that Buffy's not opening up to her, that she's just unloaded about her feelings, but Buffy's not doing the same. She feels like she's out of the inner circle.
Yeah.
And she says she's going to take one of the other cemeteries and that Buffy can go home. Of course, Buffy doesn't go home. She goes back to Angel, but
Mhm.
Faith runs into Lagos, who is, searching through the wrong cemetery, and he beats her and leaves. And,
Yeah.
because he's just looking for the glove.
Mhm.
But she's knocked on her back.
Yeah,
And
she gets her butt kicked.
And then we go to a different cemetery where Xander sees Angel is still alive and has the glove.
Yep. And so when Buffy goes to Angel's, they're making out, and Angel says, "I have this glove for you," and Buffy says for him to hang on to it,
Mm-hmm.
and that he'll tell Giles, or she'll tell Giles in the morning.
Yep.
It would have made far more sense to me if she pranced into the library holding said glove, but the story doesn't work that way.
Yep.
But when she does prance into the library to tell them about the glove, the Scoobies are there, and of course the Scoobies do not include Gwendolyn Post nor Faith.
Yep.
It's the core group from before.
We've got the scene with Giles trying to defend the Slayers to Gwendolyn Post, and she's even like making fun of his tea basically. And like he's like, I've got control of my Slayer, and like Xander like bursts in the room and goes, "We've got a problem. It's Buffy." And and the way that like Giles's face, like they go over into a corner to talk, and she's like, "Can I offer assistance?" And Giles is like plastered on grin. He's like, "Everything's fine. We got it handled."
Oh yeah.
So then the intervention the next morning,
Which
and
Willow, I will say, in this, Willow is a good friend. Like, she does stick to the I statements. She does not attack Buffy. Xander and Cordelia, of course, have gone off the rails with this, which is what they do.
well, I really like I noticed, Giles says take a seat, but there's no seat for her to take. So Xander gives her his seat and then just starts like lurking over her. Like put it in. And so we've got Cordelia and Buffy and Oz and Willow are all seated at the table. And then we've got Xander and Giles has kind of separated himself from the situation, but like Xander is like very aggressively posturing over Buffy. And that's just that's not how you do an intervention. And he's just very attacky and very like vile. And
I do love that Buffy calls him out, like, "Are you still not over this? Are you still jealous of Angel?" And Cordelia is like, "Get over yourself." But Cordelia is clearly blind when it comes to Xander, because Xander, that's why he is doing this, because he has ownership issues with Buffy. He's also cheating on her with Willow right under her nose. I think if Cordelia if she didn't have such a high opinion of herself, she would see these things. But so,
Giles though, like Giles comes into the rescue. He's like, Buffy's allowed to make her own decisions. We've said our piece. Leave it be. And Buffy tries to thank him, and he was like, "I am really hurt, and I am really upset. And Angel tortured me. And again, Angel and Jealous, that we keep having this, discussion about what is Angel responsible for, what is Angelus responsible for, but he's like, I was tortured, like Angelus murdered my love, tortured me physically and mentally and emotionally, and then you didn't respect me enough to tell me that he was back, and that is also the Gwendolyn Post praying those insecurities.
Yeah, I made a note saying like because Buffy has dropped hints to Giles, right? Like when like coming back from hell, that sort of thing. Like they've had talks. She just hasn't followed through all the way with the talks. And if Gwendolyn Post had not been around and had not started to sow this division, I don't think he would have reacted the way he did, because he never doubted before that Buffy respected him. He never saw it that way. She's starting to push him more to look like a watcher instead of how he acts as a human being. Because as we know, watchers are assholes.
Yeah.
Which
we'll find out a future asshole.
Yeah, exactly. So during all of this, Gwendolyn Post goes to see Faith in her motel room, and she says like they can have their secret meetings without me, and Faith's like, oh, what secret meetings? And she was like, oh, Buffy stuff. And really driving home like the stake to separate her from Buffy and everybody else. And Gwendolyn Post says, you're not going to like me most of the time, but I am going to keep you alive, and da-da-da-da-da-da. I kind of have a problem in general with a watcher saying something like that to someone. One, the watcher for most Slayers is the only person that they have contact with, really. And then Slayers have an life expectancy date like on them, like they're not living that long. No, you will eventually fail at your job, Mrs. Post. So I was immediately like, you're full of shit.
But I really feel the entire time she's just emotionally manipulating Faith, and she's saying, like, I'm here, I'm going to train you, I'm going to make you into a weapon. She riles Faith up and then says, would you like to train? Let's work out some of those angers, stabbing, punching, kicking sort of thing. And Faith has that respect all of a sudden of this is a dynamic that I can fit into. I've been cast out of the friend group, even though she hasn't. She feels cast out. Let me really delve into my role as a warrior.
Yeah.
And which, Gwendolyn Post says that this is the Spartan room. You want to be a Spartan, you want to be a warrior, just, stick to the warrior path sort of thing. Yes. Buffy goes and talks to Willow, and Willow's like, secrets are not bad, secrets are good, everything's fine.
Willow's very understanding because of Xander, which Xander should be more understanding because of Xander.
And then she goes with Buffy to try and kill Lagos, because if they kill Lagos, then, she can offer up a Lagos head as an offering to Giles, as a peace offering. And Willow is working up to tell about what's been going on with Xander. When Lagos shows up, Buffy decapitates him with its own weapon. Willow's like, yes!
And that right there should also show something that Buffy is able to take Lagos.
And
Faith had her ass handed to her. Buffy's able to take him, and Willow does actually do the yes, and then is just like, oh, I opened my SAT packet early. She, does not come clean. Um, and
Um,
while this is oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, like, she, she chickens out, but like, also that's a really nice axe, and I wish that she had kept it. Like, I know that she, like, I wish that that axe had played more prominent roles in future demon like.
And then when all this is going on over at the Bronze, Xander is there playing pool by himself, and Faith comes in, and she's a little salty. Xander is a pile of salt, and she's like, yeah, having your secret meetings without me or whatever. And Xander tells her his version of what's going on, which is Angel is back and alive. And Faith's like, well, I'm gonna go slay him.
Yep. And
And
Faith says, "Can I watch?"
yep.
Like, he just wants to. That's dark.
Yeah.
Like, that is dark to be like, I want to watch you kill my friend's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. Like, that is a person. Like,
Had she gone through with it and had Xander that would have been the end of that friendship. Like,
mhm.
that would have been done.
Yep.
I don't know if Xander quite understands that's not something you can take back. That's not something you're ever going to be forgiven for. And that's not something Willow is going to forgive you for.
Mhm.
Um,
They go to the library to go get weapons,
mhm,
to go hunt Angel. And then they find Giles knocked out on the floor, because something that we missed
mhm.
is that while Giles is like saying, "Oh yes, Buffy's friend has the glove,
Yeah.
and we can destroy it," and she knocks him out with
Yeah.
his, like, with a statue, one of
Yeah.
his.
Yep. Yeah. Because Giles says they can destroy the glove. Gwendolyn's just like, oh no, we can hide it. I want to hide it.
Yep.
And yeah, so that'll help. It happens before Willow and Buffy go to the graveyard, or
Hmm.
while they're on the way, rather. So Giles has been laying there for a little bit.
Yep.
Now Xander wants to. Oh, and Giles also said where the mansion was, on what street it was, for no apparent reason.
The Crawford Avenue mansion.
So Xander is just like, we have to call 911. Faith is like, leave him. And Xander is like, Giles will die if we do that. And she's like, a lot more people are going to die, and runs off.
Mhm.
Xander at this point realizes Faith might not be stable, I think, and calls 911.
Yep.
So Buffy and Willow get to Giles right as they're about to wheel him out with the EMTs. And Giles is saying, you can destroy the glove. That's basically all he's able to impart. And they're like, he has to move now if you want him to live.
Mm-hmm.
So, they get the information out of, not Giles, out of Xander about what's happened. And Willow is furious with him.
Mm-hmm.
And Xander says, Faith has like a 10-minute lead on her. So Buffy books it to the mansion. So going to the mansion currently, we have Gwendolyn Post, who has probably a half an hour lead, but she's a human. And she does not, Giles did not clarify that Angel is a vampire.
Yep.
Faith, who has a 10-minute lead, and
Mm-hmm.
then Buffy.
Yep.
Big old party headed to the mansion.
And Angel is already working. Like, he already has the spell for making living flame.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we should destroy it. And Angel's like, well ahead of you, So,
and he's pretty far along in the ritual. It looks like he's almost done.
yep. And of course, Gwendolyn Post says, where's the glove? He says it's over there. Here's the living flame. She's like, okay. And then she hits him over the head with a shovel. She just really likes knocking guys out from behind.
Yeah.
And Xander specifically said to Faith, I don't think Angel did this. It's not his style. And then he says to Buffy, your boyfriend's not as cured as you think.
Yep.
And she's like, what? And he, you know, like, why do you think that? And he goes, well, Faith thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
But he like specifically was leaving out important details to maneuver and manipulate the situation.
Which is what he does. I mean, he has done that repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Xander does not have the best well to draw from. I mean, his dad's abusive, so that's what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
However, he needs to outgrow that, like
And,
now.
and I
Like
keep thinking,
actually, 2 seasons ago, he needed to outgrow it.
he is a 17-year-old boy. And so in my head, I'm like, keep reminding myself, 17-year-old boy, 17-year-old boy. Your brains are not fully developed until around the age of 25. You don't have like proper risk consequence, you know, pathways. But God damn it, Xander, just mature a little bit. You're facing the hell now.
Yeah. Because the other, I mean, for what Xander has come from, he is doing well because, I mean, he hasn't really been exposed to parents that are better than his because Willow's are so hands off. The best example he has, he's only gotten recently, being
Mm-hmm.
Joyce. And let's not forget, Joyce threw her daughter out of the house, and Giles.
Mm-hmm.
Giles doesn't like Xander.
No.
So, I mean, not doing so great. He eventually gets there. He just needs more time, but he is an asshole right now. So yeah, Gwendolyn Post attacks Angel, knocks him out, not realizing that he is a vampire. And I think as she's like, after she knocks him out, she says like, I love this town. Everyone's so bloody helpful.
Yep. And so he, of course, vamp faces and says, you know, gonna fight you. They're fighting. He's winning.
Mhm.
Faith shows up, sees her new watcher being beaten on by a vampire, which has to be very triggering for her, considering what happened to her last watcher.
Yep.
And Gwendolyn Post is like, you know, fight him, kill him, you know, and so Faith starts going to town on Angel,
Mhm.
and then before she can stake Angel, Buffy stops her. And
Mhm.
Buffy's trying to reason with her, but Faith is not having it.
She might
And,
have listened, but then Gwendolyn Post interjects and
and
says, like, she's not thinking clearly, Faith.
yep,
And Faith takes Gwendolyn's word over Buffy's.
yep,
Like, she makes that decision right there of who she trusts.
yep.
And this will not be the last time that we see Faith make a bad decision in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, so they're fighting.
Mhm.
Buffy is winning.
Yep.
Um, and Willow and Xander arrive because they know what the glove does and they've got the living flame figured out. Xander is trying to break up the fight, and Willow is helping Mrs. Post.
Mhm.
And
Faith throws Xander.
hmm,
Faith throws Xander.
yep, yep. Which just shows how much she cares about him or how much she respects him.
Mm-hmm.
So Golden Post gets the glove, and then she just, again, she loves the blindside hitting with blunt objects like maneuver, because for the third time she whacks someone in the head with a heavy object, and this time she is slapping Willow with a glove.
Yep.
And she puts the glove on, and so she keeps using the words, a word of advice. You know, so she says earlier in the episode, a word of advice, you know, this, Faith, a word of advice, vampires usually don't knock, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she says, a word of advice, you're an idiot.
To Faith.
And just really, you know, drags down Faith and reveals herself to be, you know, the bad guy who just wants the power of the glove of Minagog.
Yep. Because at this point, she has shoved her hand in and it has clamped on, and she's calling lightning. That's what it does. You call lightning and you direct it at your enemies
Mm-hmm.
or some really ugly furniture.
Yep. And yeah, so they. I'm actually wondering, do we have any more information on the Glove of Menegon?
Not really. We don't get a lot of information on it.
I was
So
wondering, she was speaking Gaelic,
mhm,
but I wasn't sure what it was like ta prim or ta frim,
mhm.
which means come through me. So she was calling the power of Menegon, which I guess Menegon is lightning. And then she was saying, come through me every time she was directing the lightning.
Lightning, yeah. And um, so after Gwendolyn Post calls Faith an idiot, she tries to kill her just to like really send home that message.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then she tries to kill Willow because Willow is up again, but Angel saves Willow.
Yep.
Um, and at this point, Buffy and Faith are back on the same page, and Buffy asks if Faith can draw her fire,
Mm-hmm.
which Faith does. And while Faith is running around and Post is shooting flames at her, uh, Buffy takes a piece of glass from the window they've gone through and cuts off her arm
Yep.
because
Because
that makes the most sense.
Yep. She's like, I've got the glove. The glove has the power. Buffy's like, yeah, I figured that part out. Let's just take off the entire arm.
Yep. Because the simplest answer with slaying is often the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happens when her arm is separated from her, the flames kind of engulf all of her and she is gone. And the hand thing is just left. So,
Which I think Angel does go ahead and later destroys.
yeah.
Um, and so
Um,
Oz and Cordelia were totally left out of the entire evening. And so they find out about everything the next day.
mhm.
Giles arrives, and for someone who was on the brink of death the night before,
He's looking
see,
pretty good.
yeah, it seems fairly fine now.
Mhm.
And he said that apparently she'd been expelled or kicked out from the Watchers Council for abusing dark powers several years ago. They neglected to inform him, but apparently there was a memo.
They swear there was a memo.
um,
And so, Willow says she likes Angel again because he saved her life.
yep.
And Buffy says, he's not my boyfriend again. That's not what's
Mhm.
happening. And then Buffy goes to see Faith. And Faith is, bruised and her mouth's a little puffy.
But yeah, if you look at the difference between the two Slayers, like Faith is beat, and Buffy does not look beat.
Nope. And Buffy tells Faith, she's like, I'm on your side. I know that sounds weird from someone who just spent a bunch of time punching your face, but I'm on your side. And Faith says, I'm all I need on my side. I don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
So when Buffy goes to leave, Faith calls her back, but then says nothing.
Yep.
I don't know if like Buffy looks too hopeful or what. But
it was this missed connection where I really wish that Buffy had just apologized. Like Buffy offered up explanations, but she never said, I'm sorry for keeping this secret from you. Like, she's like, I kept the secret, but now it's out. I had my reasons. But you can have your reasons and still apologize for hurting a friend. Like,
but the good news is everyone was in the dark, not just Faith, like she had feared.
Yep.
She lied to everyone equally.
Yes. And then, Faith is so used to going alone, she'd started to open up, but now she's wounded, and Faith, kind of like a feral cat, retreats when she is wounded. And so and this is how we are left. And this is a turning point for their relationship. So we're about to go into the next episode, and Faith is not present in the next episode. Like,
not at all.
Yep. So
So we went from Yeah, so we went from the Slayers synchronized slaying to the episode ending, and they are separated by a wall, and they both feel very. I don't think Buffy feels alone, but Faith definitely does.
Yep. Yep.
And now on to Lover's Walk.
Go on, my dear.
I have many a fun fact.
Okay.
So, this is the episode where Spike's performance in it is what convinces Joss Whedon to make him a permanent character and what gets him on to season 4. And actually, James Marsters burns his hand rather severely in this episode, and he doesn't tell anyone. It's when they're filming.
Fire.
When his hand catches fire, he pretends like he's fine, and then as soon as they wrapped for the day, he drove himself to the ER.
Oh.
Yeah. Also, Charisma Carpenter has a large scar on her abdomen from an incident in her childhood that they've always covered up. But after this episode, the scar will forever be incorporated into her character.
Interesting.
At Buffy's last words to Angel in this episode, "Tell me you don't love me," are from the "I Only Have Eyes for You" episode. It's what the deceased ghosts, well, of course the ghosts are deceased, but the ghosts, what they say to each other. And so this is also the episode that marks an early example of Willow turning to magic to solve normal human problems. So this is our first red flag for Willow that she is going to have a magic problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like those, you know.
And I have one more fact. So Cordelia says at the beginning, what kind of moron would ever want to come back to Sunnydale? And it's important to note that after Cordelia leaves Sunnydale and moves to LA, she never comes back. Never. So, into the episode itself. Do you have fun facts about the director and whatnot? Director, writer of this one?
No, I mean, this one is directed by David Semmel. And what other ones has he done? He did Never Kill a Boy in the First Date, What's My Line Part 2, Go Fish, and a couple of episodes in Angel.
Okay.
But he's only done like 5 episodes for Buffy.
Well, he does a good one.
And then Dan Weber only did 2 episodes, only wrote 2 episodes, Lover's Walk and The Zeppo.
Ah.
The Zeppo, which is actually a really good episode. So
yeah, it is. So when we open on this episode, they're all chatting about the SATs. And their SAT scores specifically, they've all come in. And Cordelia did well, like very well, as did Buffy. But Buffy isn't quite there yet. They come up with this idea that they want to do a double date with, Xander, Cordelia, Oz, and Willow while they're cheating on their partners.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah. And then Buffy comes in and she did really well on the SATs. Like Willow is super pumped for her. And from her SAT scores, everyone keeps saying like she can have a future.
Yep.
But being the Slayer, that there's so many questions with that. So then we see Cordelia says, "You can get out of here, and never come back to Sunnydale." And everyone looks at her and she's like, "Why would you ever want to come back to Sunnydale?" And then Spike comes busting through the Sunnydale sign again, like he did the first time we met him. And he gets out of his car and he is drunk as a skunk. He falls over.
And how much alcohol does a vampire have to drink to get drunk? To get that drunk?
I believe it has to be when all the blood that is in your system actually turns into alcohol. That's probably where you have to be. He is like, looking at him as like an adult, I'm like, I know, I have an idea of what he smells like, and it's not good. He probably
Mm-hmm.
smells flammable.
Yep. Yep. And
Um, so then Spikes is singing. I think it's Sinatra who originally wrote it, but I don't think that's the version he's singing. Um, at the burned up factory, and he's wandering around talking to Drusilla's burned dolls,
yep.
which are even creepier than. And I don't know how they would have survived because they're wooden, right?
Some of them
Some
are
of them.
wooden, some of them are porcelain.
How would they have survived a
Just,
fire like that?
I mean, the porcelain ones would have survived by just being porcelain. Like the entire thing. I mean, the building did not incinerate, so there's just a lot of smoke damage.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, but yeah, so he's crying at these dolls. He's beating the dolls and breaking them.
mhm.
Then he gets angry.
Yep.
Spike's having all of the emotions, all of them. So you may have picked up on this point that something has happened with him and Drusilla,
Uh-huh.
and it was not Spike's choice.
Mm-hmm.
But
Why did you leave me?
I have some ideas if you're acting like that. So then we pop back to the school, and Xander and Cordelia has pictures of Xander in her locker, which, boy, does that bring me back to high school, having a locker with photos in it. And Xander's very touched. He's like, I'm locker material. And Cordelia says, well, just barely. I look
Mm-hmm.
really cute in those photos. But you can tell she's just teasing him. It's not how she usually is.
Yep.
Um, And then Oz gives Willow a gift, and it's a little Pezwitch.
Yep.
And she's so excited. It's a very like genuine interaction. Um, and so sweet. Like that's very much so a gift that a significant other would give randomly to
Uh,
someone. And she's like, we need to get him a little Pez werewolf. And I was like, I don't think they have those. I'm pretty sure they do.
yeah.
But she's like, it might have to just be a cartoon dog that you settle for.
Mm-hmm.
But she is so happy.
Because Oz is such a good boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, he really truly is. Um, and then we go to the library, and Giles is very excited as well about Buffy's scores. And
Mhm.
Buffy's like, I know, this means nothing. And Giles is like, no, this doesn't mean nothing. Because Giles also really values education and
Mhm.
values Buffy having a life. And he was like, you might be able to take a break temporarily. Like, he really put some
Yep.
emphasis on that. Like, he's like, you can have a quality education and quality student debt.
Yeah, and but also he just kind of offers up faith. He's
Hmm.
like, Faith can handle things, and like no one's thinking to have the conversation with Faith about, hey, also, is there a watcher stipend for Faith? Does Faith want to be a working girl and like sleep all day and slay all night? And they're just like,
Yeah, I think the assumption really is Faith doesn't have anything else. She
mhm,
dropped out of school. So she's not going to go anywhere education wise. Slaying's all she's got.
well,
But
but
they
it doesn't
don't.
have to be that way. She could find another life outside of being the Slayer that did
Mhm.
not revolve around education, you know?
Yes, but to
But
get a job, that was like, to get a job, you need a high school education, like a decent one. You need bare minimum that.
I
Now,
mean,
what they should be trying to get her to do is do her GED.
mm-hmm,
They should, because there's no way in hell that Faith is going back to school. Honestly, you might have to like literally feed her the GED to get her to take the exam. But no, it's definitely a conversation they should be having with Faith. Faith has said over and over again how much she loves slaying.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think Faith is very much so viewed as your typical Slayer, right? Buffy is not.
Yeah.
Even though, as we've seen, Buffy's better at it.
Mm-hmm. But she's talked about the reasons why she believes that she is better, is that she's got more heart for the more
She has
heart
more
in.
experience too.
Yeah, 3 years versus Faith's 3 months.
Yeah. Or
or this
however it's been now. Well, it's probably more than that now since because homecomings happened and whatnot. But
5 or 6 months. So yeah,
less than a year.
less than a year.
Yeah. And also, given everything, Buffy's still more emotionally stable.
Yep.
They don't realize how emotionally stable, like much more emotionally stable yet, but they soon will.
Giles says that he's leaving on a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks her to please be careful about seeing Angel.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're just friends. We're just friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to Xander and Willow, and they're talking about, how bad bowling is going to be. And then Xander's like, can I lick your earlobe? And she's like, yeah, okay. Like, just a little.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, and thankfully the retreat that Giles is going to is like only 45 minutes away or something like that. It's in the woods, and Buffy makes a comment that he's packing like she does.
Yep.
But so then we have Joyce and Buffy at their home in the kitchen, and Joyce is also very excited about her daughter's scores because she is a proud mama, and she was like, you can go to school. Mr. Giles said you could. Not that you're quitting, I understand that. But she says, like, is there anything actually keeping you here?
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Cute Angel.
yep. And Spike is watching Angel as Angel's like reading by the fire, all like sexy. And how Angel does not hear this other drunk vampire, that makes no sense. There's a bit of a plot hole there because Spike is watching him and going on and on about, how it's his fault basically. And Spike passes out because he hits his head. Yeah.
Yep.
And then he's woken up when his hand catches on fire when the sun's coming up. Again, Angel has no clue that Spike is back in town or anything. You would think that Spike screaming as he's on fire would have caught his attention. So Spike puts out his hand, runs to his car, and hides because his car has all that black spray paint on it, which apparently works just fine.
Yep. It's enough indirect sunlight to stop him from catching on fire.
Yep. So Spike heads over to the magic shop in the daylight and enters through the back. And this is really the first time we see a vampire creeping around during the day.
Yep.
And as he's there looking for some stuff, Willow shows up and she's looking to do an anti-love spell.
A delusting.
And
she was cued to this idea because Xander said that he wished that they could just get rid of their feelings. Like he wishes their feelings would just go away, which is what cues her into the idea, let me do a delusting spell. But she says, I know how to do a love spell and this is better. And Spike's like, ooh, like he had come in looking for syphilis or leprosy or something. And
something
now
to curse her with.
Yep. Now he's like, even better, I'm going to do a love spell. I'm going to get the witch and do a love spell. And so he kills the shopkeeper.
Yep.
And then we go to the mayor. Mayor Wilkins is now putting in another one of his little, little appearances that will continue to ramp up throughout the season. And he's talking with Deputy Alan Finch, and who says they've got a Spike problem. And he suggests that they get Mr. Trick to send a committee to deal with the problem.
And the mayor is really amused with Spike's antics. He was just like, we never knew what he was going to do next. But
it was wonderful.
Yeah, but this year is too important, he says. So he should send the committee to deal with Spike. And also, just to really, Mayor Wilkinson says he's already sold his soul. So we're getting
Mm-hmm.
like some clues there. And also he's spending his time soulless playing golf in his office, which is some of the most boring white guy crap you can do.
Yep. So he was talking about mixed metaphors. Can't allow a loose cannon to rock the boat. And then he's like, is that mixing a metaphor? Like, boats do have cannons, and if one was loose, it would cause the boat to rock. Did I have this conversation with you about the metaphor, pull the other one?
Yes.
So, um, over in the UK, it's actually a very common saying. When someone is, pulling your leg, you say, pull the other one, it has bells on it.
Yeah, we had this on the podcast. Yeah, we did.
Okay. So I can't remember, but yeah, like this, and I was wondering, like, am I mixing my metaphors again? Where did that one come from? It has bells on it. So when he was doing that, I was like, it's good to know that random demon mayors have those thoughts too. The just shower thoughts.
I feel like so one of the things that sets Buffy the show apart from other shows, the big bads have these great personalities. Like
Mhm.
the mayor has some really fun lines, and he's not the only big bad that'll be like that. I mean, Glory is another one who says some really funny things. I mean,
Mhm.
there's others as well, but Glory was the first one that came to mind. I think the mayor's probably my favorite
He's
big bad.
and you see little things, like little OCD things.
Hmm.
Alan starts to lean against the desk,
Uh-huh. It's like, uh-uh.
and he immediately whistles at him like, like, do not put your butt on my desk. Like,
Yeah,
um,
I just wiped that down.
yep. So then we're going back to school. It's the night of the double date, and Willow's in the chemistry lab.
Well, first we go to Angel and Buffy talking about college.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and Joyce does not know. They make a point of it. Joyce does not know that Angel is back, which is very important for what happens later on this evening.
Yep.
And Buffy is looking for Angel to say that she should stay for him. And Angel won't do that. He says, like, you should go. Angel does the right thing here. It might not feel like the right thing to Buffy, but it is. One, even if their relationship was something that wouldn't cause him to go demonic, him saying, like, you should go to college. I mean, technically, you could easily follow her. Like, there is nothing keeping him in Sunnydale other than Buffy.
Yep.
But, says he should, or that she should go. And at that point, she's like, you know what? I should really leave now and like skedaddle. And that's when we see that Willow has invited Xander to help with chemistry at school right
Which,
before, before the
quickly
double
figure out is a spell. And
date.
Xander's like, love spell stuff, no. And she's like, no, it's a delustig. And he's still like, this is bad.
I mean, he's traumatized from that other
love spell
spell,
situation with Amy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Spike shows up and he's super drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And he fights Xander and knocks Xander unconscious, and then borrows Willow and takes Xander back to the factory.
Mm-hmm. Along with the supplies.
Along with supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just starts like crying on Willow.
And he alternates between like threatening her life, crying, threatening her life, and wanting. When I was younger, I thought he was just threatening to like have a little nibble and suck some blood. But now I realize he was saying he wanted to have sex with her.
Yes.
And probably do a little biting.
Yes. And Willow like actually puts her foot down. She's like, whoa, hey, I will do your spell, but you're not going to put a bottle through my eyeball, and you're not going to have me in any way. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, okay.
Yep. No means no, and Spike understands that. No matter how drunk he is, everyone, the drunk soulless vampire understands that no means no right now.
In this season.
Yes, right now. This changes, but to be fair, I guess he's not drunk later on, right?
He was drunk, I think, later on.
Or was he?
Yeah.
I have not watched that episode in a very long time because it's an upsetting episode.
Traumatizing.
Yeah.
We will get to that one.
Yeah. But
This is when he
so
talks to the Chaos Demon.
yes, he explains the whole story about how Drew left him for the Chaos Demon with the slime and antlers everywhere. And so we'll see this dynamic between Willow and Spike again next season when he's trying to kill her again for funsies. And it's a lot funnier then because it's an impotent thing that
Yep.
they're
But
hinting out
does,
there.
like he's sobbing and she goes, there. Like,
We can try again later. But so Willow is looking at all the materials that he has and she's saying, this isn't enough. You didn't get everything. And he was like, I need this book. And he's like, well, where did you leave the book? And it's Buffy's house. Oh, and he also says he's going to kill Xander if she screws it up.
Yep.
Oh, and to really apparently drive Spike's very upset that Drusilla didn't try to kill him. She just said that they could still be friends.
Yep.
And he was like, how could she be so cruel? She didn't even set me on fire.
So
Vampires.
we see Buffy working out and Cordelia and Oz show up and they're worried because something has happened to where they were supposed to meet for the double date. They see the spell stuff. They're like, maybe Willow did some magic thing. We don't really know what's going on. And then Buffy's mom calls the library. Buffy at first says, go get Giles. Like, we'll find them, go get Giles. And they're like, all right, we'll head out that way. Then Gesundheit.
Thank you.
The phone rings. She picks up. It's Joyce. Joyce is still yammering away about, college stuff. And then Spike shows up behind her and says, hello, Joyce. And Buffy hears Spike's voice and immediately drops the phone and
starts running home.
Yep.
Which thankfully is like down the street.
Yes. But so then we see Spike's just having a hot chocolate with Joyce.
And he asked for the little marshmallows.
Yeah.
And like he's pouring his heart. Here again, we see Joyce being the mother to everyone. And he's just like spilling his guts about Drusilla and everything. And Joyce is like, she sounds like a very fickle girl. Like,
yep. And he's like, yeah, she's crazy. Like, I love that about her.
And as this is all going on, Angel is lurking and sees Spike in there talking to Joyce and runs through the door immediately. But Joyce has just knows him as the crazy stalker vampire.
Yep.
And Spike is having a ball with this. He's standing behind Joyce being like, gonna bite her, what you gonna do? And Joyce is like, get out of here to Angel. And then Buffy shows up and grabs Spike by the throat and slams him down on the little kitchen island and invites Angel in. And now Joyce is like, what the hell's going on?
And so Spike defends himself from being staked by saying, I've got Willow. And then he says, Willow's a witch. And Joyce is like, Willow's a witch. And he's like, and Xander. And Joyce is like, Xander's a witch.
Yep. And Spike basically says, like, I need them. Once I'm done with them, you can have them. And you can come along to, I almost said to Spike, to Angel and Buffy. Yep. And so that's what they're stuck doing. They have to like follow along, even though, a little bit later on, Buffy is like, he probably just has them in the factory. And Spike's like, what do you think I am? Dumb? And no, you're drunk. You're drunk. Yep. And that's all you can think of. So when this is happening, we cut to Oz and Cordelia in Oz's van going off to the woods to get Giles. But Oz catches Willow's scent. And he's like, Willow's afraid and starts going off, and Cordelia's like, is this some werewolf thing? And that's 100% what it is.
And she's like, that's creepy. And Oz is like, I have to agree.
Yep.
Like,
Yep, he's very self-aware.
no.
And Spike now is sobering up, and he's not thrilled about this. He's got a headache. So this also tells us that vampires can get hangovers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the science behind that. I don't know how that would work.
I don't know. But again, I feel like there has to be some level of vampires can be injured. Vampires can be bruised, they can be stabbed. So I'm wondering, like, if they can get drunk, can they get and then with just a good old drinking of fresh blood cure the hangover?
Yeah, because they're not drinking water.
Yep.
I mean, they could, but it's not going to do anything. But I mean, maybe some hot cocoa will do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they break into the magic shop. And while they're in there, Spike calls out Angel and Buffy. And he's like, the last time I looked at you two, you were at each other's throats trying to kill each other. And now you're back making googly eyes at each other.
And they're like, we're just friends. And he's like, he's like, just friends? You're not friends. Like, he calls them out on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love this line. This is one of my favorite lines.
We don't get to that yet, though.
No, we don't?
Mm-mm. He calls them out because it's when they're being attacked. So he just does the initial calling out, and then they're in the streets. Well, so we actually pop back over to Willow, who's trying to break out of the factory and failing at it. And Xander finally wakes up, and he is not feeling well, and he does not look well. He has a head injury, and there's blood involved.
Very much like Giles's head injury from the last episode.
Yes. So Willow brings Xander up to date on everything that has happened and about, Spike and all of that. And Willow and Xander take this opportunity to start making out.
Yep. Because why not?
Yep. And that would be when Oz and Cordelia arrive.
How did they not hear them opening that big iron door that she wasn't able to open?
I mean, I will give Xander a pass because he has a head injury. Willow should have heard it, but I guess she was just so like hot and heavy, did not hear it. But they see it. Cordelia turns around immediately and starts running up the stairs, and she falls through. Yeah. And when we look down, we see not only has she fallen, but there is a piece of, I think it's rebarb that is going through her, where her Charisma Carpenter's real life scar is. And she just says very weakly, like, I fell. Mm-hmm. So we cut away from there, and then we have, Buffy, Angel, and Spike have bags from the magic shop that they have now stolen supplies of. And they're surrounded by some of Spike's old cronies, and they are none too pleased to see Spike. And they actually say to them, like, you two can leave. We just want Spike. And Spike's like, if I die, your friends die. And Buffy's like, shit, I guess we're not going anywhere. So this is, I think, the first time you see the three of them, like Angel, Spike, and Buffy fighting on the same side. I don't know if it's the only time. I mean, technically no, because of pangs, but Spike's not really fighting. He's tied to a chair.
Yep.
But they're all fighting on the same side against this gang of vampires, but they wind up barricading themselves in the magic shop. And I think we jump back. So they're fighting, and go ahead.
We're kind of splitting into scenes where we've got Oz has gone to get help. Willow and Xander are trying to get Cordelia out of the factory. And then we're splitting up with the fights
Yeah.
of the vampires trying to get into the magic shop. Spike's told by Lenny that like he's gone soft and weak, and that makes him, decide to fight back. But I feel like at this point, Spike has already said, because I think it was before they go out into the street that Spike says to them the first thing, which is,
Yeah. I think you're right about being love's bitch.
yep. And
Yeah.
so, can I say it or do you want to say it?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So he tells them that you are not friends. He says, you'll never be friends. You'll fight and you'll shag and you'll hate each other till it makes you quiver, but you'll never be friends.
Mm-hmm.
I may be love's bitch, but at least I'm man enough to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about that because they're saying that he was being all mopey and sad about, Drusilla, and how like his self-doubt and self-deprecation and whininess was not sexy, which is again repeated with Lenny saying you've gone soft, and Spike just starts beating on the vampire and torturing the vampire, and
Finds his fun again.
finds his fun. So when all the other vampires start pouring in, they're Buffy and Angel are throwing bottles of holy water as like bombs or grenades at the vampires, while Spike finishes killing Lenny.
Yeah.
And eventually stakes him. And then Spike's like, that was amazing, that was great. He's like, and they're like, okay, well, let's go do your spell. And he's like, sod the spell. They're at the factory like he thought. I'm gonna go and capture Drew and torture her until she likes me again. And he's like, I'm really glad I came back here.
Yep. And so what had confused me was when all the other vampires have fled, Angel doubles over and Buffy like rushes to him and he's like, oh yeah, you're just friends.
Yep. No trouble there.
Yeah. And what Spike actually says to Buffy and Angel actually applies to him and Buffy later on. They'll never be friends. Far more, I would say, than Angel and Buffy. Yep. Mainly because of the shagging thing.
Yep. Lots of shagging.
Yep.
So we go back to Cordelia, and Xander is trying to like get her help, and she's kind of like softly moaning, and she says, Xander, I can't see you. And then we flash to a funeral.
Yep. They get us good.
But it's a fake out. And it's, she's fine. None of her vital organs were punctured. She's gonna survive, but she did lose a lot of blood.
Because we see it's Buffy and Willow just walking casually in the cemetery by a funeral. And Cordy hasn't seen anyone because she's been in ICU. And Xander's gonna go see her later that day. And Oz is not speaking to Willow.
Yep.
And that's all Willow wants. She just wants him to speak to her.
And Buffy says, time, patience, and groveling. So, hopefully get things back on track.
Buffy is a really good friend here. Like, at no point does she offer any judgment on what has happened. She just is there to support Willow. Yep. She's a really good friend to Willow here. Better than Willow has been to her recently.
Yeah. Although she was understanding to Buffy when Buffy was getting ganged up on by everybody about Angel.
So. Because Willow had her own secret and she finally understood.
Yep.
But so Xander then brings Cordelia flowers. And Cordelia is in the hospital bed laying away from Xander. And Xander starts his ramble. And Cordelia turns to him and says she wants Xander to stay away from her. And Xander respects her wishes and leaves at that point. And as he does, she cries. Cordelia has many faults, many faults, but she's still a person. And he broke her heart. And she's laying in a hospital with, after being skewed.
Yep.
Um, so, she's very upset. And then Buffy goes to see Angel, and, she tells Angel she's not coming back. He doesn't need her anymore. He's well. And, she can fool herself and she can fool everyone else, but she can't fool Spike for some reason.
Yep.
And
She can't fool herself,
and she
and
can't,
she can't fool Spike.
yeah,
Like everyone else, she can fool. She can fool Giles, can fool her mom, can fool her friends, but nope, she can't fool herself, and she can't fool Spike because
yeah,
Spike is very insightful.
apparently.
Um,
And she says to him, like, what I want from you, I can never have. And Angel still wants to see her, and he says he's not going to accept this. And there has to be a way that they can still see each other. And she said, there is. Tell me you don't love me. And he
but
can't do it.
yep,
So Buffy walks away. And we see all of the Scoobies separate from each other. Everyone is alone.
yep.
At the end of last episode, it was Faith and Buffy that were separated. In this episode, Willow's holding her Peswitch. Cordelia is in the hospital. Oz is sitting playing his guitar at the Bronze.
Mm-hmm.
Xander is in the library sorting books because he has no hobbies and nothing else to do. And Buffy is at school just sitting there. And then Spike is giddy and singing as he's driving away from Sunnydale, singing the
I
same
just
song.
looked it up.
Yeah.
So it is Frank Sinatra's "My Way," but it's Sid Vicious covering the
Well,
song.
I feel like when he's drunk and sad and singing it, it's Frank Sinatra, but when he's leaving, it's Sid Vicious.
Yep. And
that's how that, and it's terrible singing too. It's not good, which is funny.
because James Marsters is a fantastic singer, but this
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. He
his
did some good acting.
Yep.
And as the credits hit, you still just hear his awful singing voice. And that is Lover's Walk.
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited because, we've got some good episodes coming back, coming up. Next week is The Wish, followed by Amends. Now, Amends starts off, I would say, as a monster of the week, except it becomes a very big deal in a future season.
Yeah.
And The Wish is our introduction to
Anyanka.
Yep. So I am very excited to just Joss about those next week.
This season is chock full of so many great episodes. It's by far my favorite season of Buffy.
Agreed so much.
I think most people agree with that. And if you don't, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. You're allowed to have opinions.
All right. Well, thank you for just Jossing with me.
Yes. And we will see you in the Hellmouth next week. No.